Hello, and welcome to my office slash library floor where I have this great backdrop that I can do videos in front of. It's not just a plain wall. Um, it's been a while since I've been on my YouTube channel, depending on if I post this video first, but I want to get back into it for sure because I know long form content is kind of making a comeback and I'm really long winded. I will be sharing most of this on my Instagram as well, but I'm gonna have to cut it into like 8 different reels in order to get it to fit in the time frames that they want us to do, which I just think is kind of ridiculous, but here we are. So this series, or I guess in the case of this video, um, is a series where I think the sequel was not necessarily better than the first book, but was a really solid sequel, especially in the case of trilogies, because a lot of the time the second book suffers from middle book syndrome, where it kind of just is like not necessarily a placeholder, but it just doesn't feel as fleshed out as the first and the last book. But these are sequels that I think got it right. So yeah, let's get started. So the first book we're talking about is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch, and this is the sequel to The Lies of Locke Lamora. These books are big, as you can tell, and it's a heist type thing, okay? So these characters are thieves, they pull off these elaborate schemes to get money, and I honestly did not think that Scott Lynch could possibly top the shenanigans that happen in The Lies of Locke Lamora, but I was very, very wrong because this book was almost more mind blowing than The Lies of Locke Lamora. We get to enter into pirates, they go on a pirate ship, they try to steal from this like elaborate casino, and the series is told in like a series of like present day and flashbacks, and you get the whole like their heist in bits and pieces, and you're trying to figure out like where in the timeline are we and what do I know, and there's just so much you don't know, but at the end where it all pieces itself together, it's just like it's insane. And if you're a lover of epic fantasy and heists and morally gray characters, you need to read this series. It's not finished, but I have hopes that one day it will be. Number 2, we have Beasts That Never Slumber by Aldera Thomas, which is the sequel to Butterflies That Never Die. This is an epic fantasy slash portal fantasy with shape-shifting magic, and it's very, very politics heavy, I will say, which is not what I expected with the series, but I really do enjoy it. The author does a really great job of getting across the different factions within the kingdom, different sides of the civil war that's going on. And book 1 was 5 stars for sure. This one took a lot more for me to get into. I wasn't like necessarily confused for the first half of the book, but I was just like, I'm not sure where this is going exactly. But then in the last half, when everything starts to fall together, the action starts to ramp up. It was like, oh my god. And it became 5 stars for sure. And I need book 3, but I'm also terrified for what's going to happen in book 3. I know you're watching this, Aldera. Please do not hurt Derek. I swear to God. Anyway, you should read this if you love fantasy, shapeshifting magic, um, reincarnated gods. It's really good, really unique. Number 3 is Unwritten in the Stars by Jenny Sauer, which is the sequel to A Little Beside You. These are cozy mafia romance slash soft sci-fi fairy tale retellings set in the Everraft galaxy, which is Jenny Sawyer. All her books are set in this world so far, and book 2 follows a different couple from book 1, and book 1 is one of my favorite books ever, with one of my favorite romances ever, and it was just beautiful and I loved it. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about book 2 because Aldine, the male POV, I'm like, I'm not sure I felt about him in book 1, but oh my god, this book like blew me away. I did not expect to fall in love with these characters as much as I did. And it took me a little bit to like find my groove with them and to sympathize with them. But like Aldine is amazing, and Aniston and him together, and just the poetry and the symbolism, it's just beautiful, and you need to read it. Do it now. The next one is The Eternity Cure by Julie Kagawa, which is the sequel to The Immortal Rules. I almost said the series name instead. The Immortal Rules. And this is dystopian with vampires and enemies to lovers romance. And it's just the best thing I've ever read in my life. I reread these, I want to say 2 years ago now, and it was just as good as the first time I originally read it when I was like, I don't know, 16. And book 2 just packs even more punches, even more action and betrayal and trauma. And it's just, it doesn't stop. But Julie Kagawa has such a way with words and characters and the relationships between them. Like, she's so easy to read, but it's also not simple at the same time. It has so many layers. And I definitely recommend her books to anybody, like everybody, anytime I can. But this one is really unique. It has my whole heart, and so much of this influenced my dystopian trilogy, which I didn't realize until I reread this series. I was like, oh my god, there's so many pieces of my book in this book, or I guess this book in my books. But it's a very, very solid trilogy, so book 2 it's good. It's great. The ending, all I'll say is you're not ready for that ending. Next, we have a classic, in my opinion, A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which of course is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic. This is epic fantasy set in London where magic is a thing, and there's different Londons that are stacked up on top of each other, different like dimensions basically, and there's elemental magic, there's blood magic, there's dark magic, there's royalty and secrets and politics and romance and bromance and siblings. It has everything. And like, this first book is so action packed, and then this book has a competition in it, and I cannot do this series justice, so you just have to read it and know that it is the best thing, like one of the best fantasy series out there. And last year or the year before, V.E. Schwab released the first book in the sequel trilogy, and I just finished that a couple weeks ago. Review incoming. It was so good, and yeah, I'm so happy to be back in that world, like you don't even know. Next, something a little different flavor, we have The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the sequel to The Inheritance Games. Now, these books have a lot of hype, like a lot, and I resisted the urge to read them for a long time because I was like, they're just not going to be as good as people say they are. Like, I could not get myself to trust people's opinions. I was like, I don't know, but like, the way people were talking about it and the synopsis and the clips that I was seeing, I was like, this feels very 39 Clues to me, but a bit older of a book, so like YA, whereas like 39 Clues is like middle grade but borderline YA. This is very solidly YA, and I grew up absolutely devouring the 39 Clues books, and I was like, I miss, like, whatever that was, I need that in my life again. And so I picked up The Inheritance Games, and oh my god, I was right. The world was right. This book is like crack. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, the mystery and the puzzle pieces are woven together so beautifully, and they all make sense. And then the romance on top of it, and the family drama. Are you kidding me? And then the first book was like, okay, whatever. Like, it wrapped up very nicely, I thought. I was like, okay. And then that little plot twist that they drop in the end of it, and you're like, oh my god, there's so much more layers to this. And so the Hawthorne Legacy did a really good job of like coming out the back of the Inheritance Games and not being a letdown. Like, it had big shoes to fill, and I didn't think it was possible to have as much mystery and intrigue and do the puzzles again but not make it the same, you know? And it just did it. Okay? It did it. And I was sat, and I don't know if you can see the shelf from up here, but I have all the books in this series now. I will say that I didn't like the final Gambit as much. It was still probably a 5-star read if I remember, but it definitely goes book 1, book 2, and then book 3 in like my rating scale. But the Brothers Hawthorne and that Beyond It I really liked a lot. So yeah, but very, very solid sequel. And last but definitely not least, because I think every single sequel list, if you've read this book, would be on it. And that, of course, is Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins, which I'm sure we all know is a sequel to The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games was such a unique book. I read it a little bit after like the craze started, but I think before the movie, I honestly can't remember if I read this first or watched the movie first. I don't remember. It was so long ago now, but and it didn't really. I wasn't obsessed with this book until a bit like after like I'd read it, where everything really sank in and like I got older and like But it was such a unique book, and I was like, I don't know, like where are we gonna go after this? Because like Katniss won the games, and obviously, sorry, spoiler, I guess. And obviously, there's still political upheaval, but what are we gonna do? And then Catching Fire happened, and like without giving anything away, like she did it again, but somehow better. Like I don't know how you can do it, but she did it, and she made it new. And I actually predicted what the Quarter Quell was going to be before I read this book. Like, not definitively, but I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself before I read this book, I was like, you know what? What would the Quarter Quell be? Like, I was brainstorming things based on what they said the previous ones were, and then like something clicked in my mind, and I was like, oh my god, what if? And then I got to that part in this book, and I was like, oh my god, Suzanne actually did it. She went there. And then from there, it was just bonkers. Definitely, book 2 I think is my favorite. Book 1 is my second favorite, and Mockingjay is my least favorite. But that by no means means that it's a bad book. And I still haven't read Sunrise on the Reaping, but I do plan to get to that. I just want it in paperback because The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes up there, you might not be able to see it. That is in paperback, and I want those two to match since I have a box set of the original trilogy in hardcover that matches. I want my Sunrise on the Reaping to match my Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. But yeah, haven't read it yet. Very, very nervous to read it, even though I kind of know what happens, but yeah. Anyway, those are my favorite sequels from the book series on my shelves that I own. If you've read any of these, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, and if you have any sequel recommendations, I guess whole series recommendations you want to give me, definitely drop those in the comments as well, either on YouTube or on Instagram, depending on where you're listening. And yeah, have a great day. I will talk to you soon.